stories of HR.
The stories HR tells itself.
So usually when you step into the driver's seat of a car, you have this the very basic expectation of how the machine works, right?
Right, yeah. You press the gas and it goes.
Exactly. You press the pedal, the engine revs, and the car moves forward. It's a direct mechanical relationship.
A clear cause and effect. I mean, the action leads to an immediate result.
But if you step into the world of modern corporate management, that mechanical certainty just completely vanishes.
Oh, completely. It's totally gone.
You're sitting there and you're pressing the gas pedal to the floor.
Yeah.
And, the RPM gauge is screaming, the engine is roaring. And it feels exactly like acceleration.
Right.
You look out the window and you haven't moved an inch.
Because the car is in neutral.
Yeah.
All that noise, the whole roaring engine thing, it's just being mistaken for forward motion.
Which brings us to today's topic.
Yeah.
Today, we are taking apart another one of those incredibly comfortable, deeply ingrained corporate beliefs.
Yeah.
This is lie number 3 from our series of The Lies of HR.
And it's a big one.
It really is. If you've been exploring these topics with us, you'll remember we recently unpacked lie number 1, which was the myth of people first, and then lie number 2, the trap of hiring for cultural fit.
Yeah, those are heavy.
So today, we are aiming straight at the myth that engagement equals productivity. Our mission here is to really examine this multi-billion-dollar corporate obsession.
The whole idea that if you just push an employee engagement score high enough, business performance will automatically, magically rise alongside it.
What gets a dial you can just turn up.
Exactly. It's the ultimate illusion of the dashboard dial. I mean, the myth claims that employee engagement is literally wired straight to a company's bottom line.
Right.
The underlying logic suggests that if leadership can, run enough surveys, mandate enough team building exercises, put enough cold brew in the break room.
Mandatory fun.
Right, exactly. If they make people enthusiastic enough, then corporate output will just surge.
And, on the surface, the idea that happy workers do better work sounds incredibly intuitive. It sounds like something we really want to be true.
It feels very right.
But if that dashboard dial is actually an illusion, if the car is genuinely in neutral, how did the smartest, most data-driven companies in the world buy into this narrative in the first place?
Well, it all traces back to a really fundamental misreading of the science, specifically a massive error in how we understand cause and effect.
Okay, lay it out for us.
So the entire engagement industry, and we're talking about a massive ecosystem of consultants, survey platforms, software vendors, it was largely built on cross-sectional surveys.
Wait, let's pause right there. A cross-sectional survey that is essentially just taking a photograph, right?
Yes.
Like a single snapshot of an organization on a given day.
Exactly. A single snapshot taken on one specific day. And in that snapshot, researchers noticed a trend.
Which was what?
They saw that the people who are currently performing very well at their jobs also tended to report being highly engaged. The two metrics were basically elevated at the exact same time.
Wait, so consultants looked at that single photograph and they just assumed the direction of the relationship.
Yeah.
They concluded that because high engagement and high performance were in the same room together, the engagement must be the thing creating the performance.
That is the multi-billion-dollar leap of logic right there.
Oh, wow.
I mean, a snapshot cannot tell you which way the arrow of causality points. It just tells you two things are happening simultaneously. Correlation is not causation,
Right, the classic statistics rule.
Exactly. To see if pushing the engagement dial actually moves the productivity needle, you can't just use a snapshot. You have to follow the exact same people over months and years. You need longitudinal studies.
Okay, so has anyone actually tracked this over a long period of time to figure out which way the arrow actually points?
They have. So the benchmark data comes from a 2008 study by Michael Ricketta at Aston University.
Okay.
And he didn't just look at one company. He actually conducted a meta-analysis of 16 different longitudinal panel studies.
So 16 different long-term tracking studies.
Right. He tracked the same employees over time to finally answer the question, does a positive job attitude today cause better performance tomorrow?
And what did the timeline actually show? Because the industry says it absolutely does.
Well, the results completely destabilize that whole corporate narrative. Ricketta found that the effect of job attitudes on later performance was, while it was statistically significant, it was incredibly weak.
How weak are we talking?
In statistical terms, the beta was roughly 0.06.
Okay, beta. For those of us who haven't taken a statistics class recently, what exactly does that measure? Is that just like the strength of the connection?
Yeah, think of it as a scale from 0 to 1. 0 means there is absolutely no relationship, and 1 means a perfect, absolute lockstep relationship.
Okay, got it.
So a beta of 0.06 is hovering just barely above 0.
0.06, I mean, that's a rounding error.
It is minuscule. It basically means that engagement is, at best, a very weak predictor of future performance. It's nowhere near the powerful control lever the industry sells it as.
But wait, what about the other way around? Like, doing a good job makes you feel good.
Yeah, Ricchetta looked at that reverse scenario too. Because like you said, people often argue that doing good work is what causes the good feeling.
Right.
But he found the reverse effect performance causing later attitudes was essentially nil, 0.
Wow. So the causal story is just murky, and the effect size is almost non-existent.
Yeah.
It makes me think of a thermometer versus a thermostat. Like, engagement is just a thermometer.
That's a great way to put it.
It's just a piece of glass with some mercury in it that reads the temperature of the room. It just tells you what the current conditions are.
Exactly. And the problem arises when the engagement industry treats that thermometer like a thermostat. They tell managers, if you want to heat up the room, just hold a lighter under the thermometer.
Which is wild. You throw a mandatory pizza party and you artificially raise the reading on the thermometer for, like, a Friday afternoon.
Right.
But you didn't actually heat the room. You didn't fix the broken windows or, turn on the furnace. Manufacturing a mood is entirely different from fixing the actual conditions of the work.
Completely different. And zooming out from the academic science to the macro level really reveals how this disconnect plays out in the real world.
Let's talk about the real world.
Yeah, we can look at the actual global economy to see this thermometer failing to heat the room.
Let's look at that timeline, because the global numbers here are staggering.
Yeah.
Gallup runs the world's largest ongoing study of the employee experience, right?
Yes, this is their flagship metric.
So what are they seeing?
Their most recent data paints a very clear picture. Global employee engagement fell to roughly 20% in 2025.
Wait, 20%. So only 1 in 5 employees worldwide is categorized as engaged.
Just 1 in 5. And this isn't some sudden blip either. It marks a multi-year decline. The number was down to 21% in 2024, down from 23% in 2023. It essentially hit its lowest level since 2020. And in the United States specifically, engagement has fallen to a decade low.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for you, the listener. Let's look at the timeline you just laid out. During the exact same window, 2023, 2024, 2025, where employee engagement plummeted to decade lows.
Right.
Aggregate corporate profits didn't crash.
Nope.
They held broadly steady. Global output did not collapse.
The two metrics, engagement and output, they've literally been drifting in completely opposite directions for years.
So doesn't the industry's own flagship data set quietly destroy its core thesis?
It absolutely does.
I mean, if engagement scores can fall off a cliff without business performance collapsing right alongside it, it proves engagement was never the magic lever they said it was.
The macro data undercuts the thesis entirely. So the logical question then becomes, if the academic science shows the link is incredibly weak, and the global data proves output isn't dependent on high engagement scores.
Why do they keep doing it?
Right. Why does a massive ecosystem of HR professionals and tech vendors still push this narrative on corporate boards?
Why do they keep selling the lighter for the thermometer?
Because, honestly, it provides the perfect corporate scapegoat.
Oh, explain that.
Well, it is vastly cheaper and significantly easier to buy an off-the-shelf engagement survey program or to throw a catered lunch than it is to fix a fundamentally broken business model.
Oh, I see. It's deflection for leadership.
Exactly.
If profits dip or, execution slows down, executives don't have to look in the mirror. They can just point to the survey results and say, well, the strategy is brilliant. The operational model is flawless. The employees just aren't smiling enough.
Exactly. Blaming the worker's mood for a system's failure allows leadership to avoid the hard structural work.
Right.
And as long as boards believe this quote-unquote score dictates their financial future, the industry keeps selling solutions to a misdiagnosed problem.
But the landscape has shifted recently, right?
Oh, definitely. The myth of engagement has mutated far beyond annual surveys and foosball tables.
It took a much darker turn with the massive shift to remote and hybrid work.
Yes. When managers lost the visual proxy of work, the ability to simply look out over a bullpen and see people sitting at their desks typing, the industry panicked.
They didn't know how to measure anyone anymore.
Right. So they pivoted from measuring engagement through surveys to what they call continuous objective measurement.
Which is a very sterile corporate way of saying AI surveillance.
Basically, yeah. We are seeing the massive deployment of AI tools designed to score productivity, behavior, and sentiment in real time.
It's so creepy.
It is. Algorithms are now running sentiment analysis on private Slack messages and emails just to calculate an employee's enthusiasm.
How does that actually work mechanically? Because I was reading the sources for this deep dive, and the level of tracking is just wild.
It's intense. These tools scrape digital communication using natural language processing, and they assign positive, neutral, or negative scores to an employee's vocabulary. They track keystroke counts per minute. They measure active screen time by actually watching mouse movement.
I saw there are algorithms that will literally flag an employee to their manager for using fewer exclamation points than usual in an email.
Yes.
Or, like, for taking a few minutes too long to reply to a boss's instant message.
It creates a completely dystopian environment. Employees are not just expected to do their jobs anymore. They are expected to mathematically perform happiness for a machine.
So if you're sitting at your laptop at home right now, carefully agonizing over whether to use a period or an exclamation point so the AI doesn't report you to HR as disengaged.
Which is exhausting.
Right. Consider what is actually happening here. These tools overwhelmingly measure activity, not output. You're being forced to perform for an algorithm rather than actually solve real business problems.
Exactly. You are just generating data exhaust.
Data exhaust. That is a perfect term for it.
Yeah, it really captures what's happening.
For anyone unfamiliar with the concept, data exhaust is essentially the trail of digital noise we leave behind when we use technology.
Right.
And in this context, it's employees generating random, meaningless activity like extra mouse clicks, keeping a window active, or typing forced upbeat messages, simply to feed the tracking software.
It's wild.
It's like an engine burning fuel just to make smoke, without turning the wheels of the car.
And forcing people to manage their metrics rather than their actual work ensures the actual work suffers. It is the absolute antithesis of productivity.
Okay, so if the dashboard dial is a myth, the pizza parties are a band-aid, and scraping communication for punctuation is actively toxic, how do leaders actually build systems that produce results?
Right. What's the alternative?
Yeah, what does an honest leader actually do to drive real productivity?
Well, Martin outlines a very clear reframing of how honest leaders operate in his notes. He abandoned the pursuit of engagement scores entirely and focused on operational reality.
Okay.
The first step is to fix the work, not the mood.
Which means what, practically?
It means accepting that perks like foosball tables and free cold brew are really just B-roll for a company's careers page.
Right, they look great on a recruitment video.
Sure, but they do absolutely nothing for an employee stuck behind a broken, archaic approval process on a highly stressful Wednesday afternoon.
Absolutely nothing.
Real motivation comes from meaningful work and the autonomy to execute it. Honest leaders look at the friction in the day-to-day operations and they remove the barriers that stop people from doing their jobs effectively.
But finding that friction requires feedback, right? And this is where companies usually deploy the dreaded annual survey.
Oh, the survey theater.
Yeah, you pour your heart out into a text box, you hit submit, and you hear nothing but crickets.
And asking for honest feedback about operational friction and visibly doing nothing with it is worse than never asking at all.
It is. It just breeds resentment.
It proves leadership heard the problems and actively chose to ignore them. So, honest leaders treat survey theater as a binary rule. They either commit to acting on what they hear, fast and in public, or they stop pretending to listen entirely.
That makes total sense. And if a leader commits to acting on feedback, they have to be prepared for the actual answer.
Yes, they do.
They can't demand endless enthusiasm, which brings up the immense danger of toxic positivity.
This is a huge point.
The relentless corporate pressure to look constantly enthusiastic creates a culture of manufactured zealotry.
And a workforce of smiling zealots is incredibly dangerous.
Yeah.
Because nobody flags the iceberg if dissent looks like disengagement.
Exactly.
If pointing out a flaw in a strategic plan gets an employee labeled as a quote-unquote drag on company culture, they're simply going to stay quiet, but let the ship sink with a smile on their face.
So companies actually need psychologically safe, realistic people who aren't afraid to raise their hand and say, you know what, this new initiative is actually a bad idea.
Precisely. Aiming for that honest, moderate middle ground in employee attitude is worth far more than an artificially inflated 90% engagement score. And establishing that psychological safety shifts how a company handles failure too. When performance dips, the honest move is to look at operational reality first.
Instead of using culture or engagement as a scapegoat.
Exactly. Before blaming the team's attitude, leadership has to ask the hard questions. Are the tools we provided fundamentally broken?
Yeah.
Was our initial strategy flawed? Is the approval process so incredibly clogged that nothing can move forward? Low engagement is too often just a convenient story hiding a massive structural failure.
And when you stop using attitude as a scapegoat for a broken system, you're forced to look at what is actually being produced, which leads to the final point. You have to measure outcomes, not surveillance.
Yes.
Time sitting in a seat or logged onto a server is not value created. Sentiment scraped from a private chat is just noise.
Honest leadership sets a clear objective, provides the autonomy and tools to reach that objective, and judges the final result.
Right.
It respects the employee as a professional hired to create value, not to act as a cheerleader for an algorithm.
Synthesizing all of this, the grand corporate myth tells us that a high engagement score magically causes high performance. It suggests we can just crank a dial and reap the profits.
But the longitudinal science like Michael Richetta's tracking of the exact same employees over time shows the link is incredibly weak.
The effect size is hovering near zero.
And the millions of data points from the global macroeconomy reinforce this. It shows engagement and output drifting in opposite directions for years.
So the paradigm shift here is realizing that engagement is better understood as a signal to read, not a dial to crank.
It is the thermometer, not the thermostat.
Exactly. So if you have ever felt exhausted by the performative enthusiasm required at your job,
And who hasn't?
right. If you've ever rolled your eyes at a mandatory virtual happy hours when you just wanted to finish your project and log off, the data backs up your frustration.
It completely validates it.
You are hired to create value, not to manufacture a good mood, just to make a manager's dashboard look green.
Which brings us to a final thought worth considering. We discussed the massive rise of AI surveillance tools earlier. You know, the keystroke trackers, the active screen monitors, the sentiment analysis.
Yeah, the dystopian stuff.
If leaders feel an overwhelming, desperate urge to watch every digital move an employee makes and monitor the tone of their private chats, perhaps the real problem isn't employee disengagement.
What does that level of surveillance actually signal?
Honestly, it signals a leadership team that has completely lost track of what actual value and success even look like.
Oh, wow.
If the definition of work devolves into just generating the right data exhaust for an AI manager to read, we sacrifice human innovation.
You really do.
The messy, unquantifiable, brilliant leaps of logic that actually move a company forward. They cannot be captured by counting how fast someone typed an email.
No, they can't. If the dashboard becomes the only reality, we lose the actual road.
Exactly.
Well, that is lie number 3, completely taken apart. Sit with these ideas, argue with them, share them with a coworker who hates mandatory fun as much as you do. We will be right back here soon to deep dive into the next comfortable corporate illusion.
Until then, keep your foot on the actual gas pedal and make sure you're in drive. If this lie got under your skin, good. The next one drops soon, and the best way to make sure you don't miss it is to join the mailing list at liesofhr.com. One comfortable lie at a time, straight to your inbox. We'll see you at the next one.
Lies of HR.
The stories HR tells itself.